Okay, so hi Morgan. It's nice to meet you. Do you prefer Morgan or Mo? Sorry, because your Instagram is Mo.
That's fine. Yeah, nice to meet you, Helen. Most people call me Morgan. My close friends end up calling me Mo, but yeah, it's most often I'm referred to as Morgan.
Nice. Okay. And if do you want to just like tell us a bit about yourself? I mean, you're a sky runner predominantly these days, but you have quite a depth of background in ultra trails as well. Do you want to just go into that, who you are and what you're about?
Sure. Yeah, I grew up in Pennsylvania and ran in middle school, high school, and into college, and got into trail running just after college. And just started having more fun on the trails and the road. So just kind of gravitated towards spending my time where it's most fun. So after that, just started making big goals for myself. Like my first ultra was this really gnarly race on the East Coast called Quest for the Crest. And I went out there and did my own coaching and trained hard for it and ended up winning against some good competition. And it was like, I could probably keep this up and keep doing it. There's a whole series in the US at the time. So I made these goals and I started doing those and was pretty successful for 2 years and then chased the World Series with Skyrunning after that. Um, After just a injury that pushed me away, I came back to the States and kept making goals, wanted to uh, go to Western States. So I got a golden ticket to race at Western States. And then after Western States was a little bit done. I had a hiccup there, spraining my ankle, had some time off, like 10 months. Wanted to make new goals. So I was like, let's get on the US mountain running team. So I was able to achieve that twice, which was super huge for me then and brings us to where we are now. So I've done hundreds, I've done VKs, I've done uh, everything in between, but right now I'm really kind of enjoying the 4 hour, 5 hour time on the trail. So with that being said, it's kind of hard to say the distance because each trail race I do has so much elevation gain and technicality that will really slow up the runner. But as far as, you know, calories and grams per hour, I really like the 5 hour distance right
Yeah.
now. So yeah, enjoying the Skyrunning World Series, getting to have my first real sponsor with Merrill.
Yeah.
And I chose to target Merrill as a sponsor for myself because one, I got to try out their shoes beforehand and I really enjoyed them. And I try to represent brands that I really believe in and that work well for my needs. And they
Mm.
just coincidentally sponsor the type of running that I love the most. So I was like, this is a no-brainer for me to try to get on this Merrill team. So that kind of brings me where I am now. I still always travel by car or a bit of a dirt bag, if you will, which just to me is more freeing and enjoyable. Just kind of the life I like to live.
Yeah. So when you say you kind of targeted Meryl, what does that mean? Did you reach
Yeah.
out to them?
So Merrill, uh, once you get in the race scene, you kind of have networking, get to know, get to meet people. So one of the guys that was a shoe tester, he gave me a contact and I was able to get some shoes. So I got to test out the shoes beforehand, and really enjoyed them, used them for like qualifying for the US team, raced in them at Worlds and things like that. Would be the Skyfire and racing it for the VK and stuff. So after that, there was an opportunity Merrill posted on Instagram that somebody sent my way, and they were
Oh,
taking three athletes to race each other over in Steamboat, and winner gets a contract. So it was myself, I was chosen, fortunately, and two other guys were chosen, and we got to go up to Steamboat, and I came out the winner. It was kind of my style of race, but they were celebrating FKT, so like fastest known times.
mm,
So the shoe that they came out was Skyfire, and they're just trying to like integrate that into fastest known times, getting the most fastest known times in this specific shoe. So that was kind of their promotion, and I was fortunate to be the one to run the fastest that day.
Nice. And have you done any FKTs yourself? I actually, in my research, I didn't come across those.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I really like to dabble in FKTs. I'm really bad at submitting them. I just run. It just yeah, but I mean, a lot of my routes I do, um, you know, there could be FKT routes, but the ones I actually focus on and do, I have a couple and then like prepare for. So my first one, 4 pass mountain loop in Maroon Bells. So that's in Aspen.
Okay.
That's probably the most prestigious one I was able to capture. It was held by some stout runners in the past, Anton Kropechka and Sage Canaday.
Yeah.
And this was back in 2018. And I guess what's disappointing about fastest known times, they won't really tell you who's gone after it. Typically, the athletes
Yeah.
will reach out to you or things like that. But I'm like to think people have tried to get it since 2018 because it is a pretty awesome route. But other than that, there's Art Loeb Trail in North Carolina, which is popular for those folks in North Carolina. I haven't gotten just the 50K. I didn't go for that one. I got the out and back, so the yo-yo. I believe I still have that. So it was 100K with 18,000 feet
Nice.
meters. I gotta do some of that. The other ones, most recently, Mount Mitchell is the tallest mountain east of the Mississippi in the US is pretty popular. Just the direct up. I did a fun little segment, came up with this idea with a friend, David Hedges, who has, if you've heard of the Nolans FKT, he has
No.
the supported FKT on Nolans. It's in Colorado. It's about 100 miles over the Sawatch Range from Salida to Leadville, which is
Wow.
just prestigious route in Colorado. He has that, but him and I duked it out and raced to the top of Mount Mitchell, which was a really cool style. I enjoyed, hopefully doing more of it.
Yeah.
But I ended up getting that FKT up the highest mountain. And then he did the up down and got the descent as well after
Nice.
he wasn't having his day. But yeah, other than that, that's kind of all I can think of. I'm sure there's other ones that I just haven't submitted. Not to sound, I just have to do some research, but I do want to focus hard on getting some other ones in Colorado that inspire me that I lived around. Um, but
Yeah.
like 10, yeah, the 10-mile traverse being one of them. But yeah, there's a couple.
Yeah. Nice. You've had a very varied, I guess, yeah, running career now, but starting off,
Mhm.
did you do it in high school? Did you say any running?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Was that kind of cross country track?
Cross country and track. Yeah, I
Yeah.
primarily in track did like the 800 and the mile. So I was kind of more that mid-distance guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
mean, I went on your website and your
oh,
5K time, obviously I did, but your 5K time is 15:16. Like when first of all, when was that? Because that blows my mind.
oh, that's yeah. I guess I'm a little hard on myself. 15, 16 doesn't in the track world. That's nowhere in competition to these 13:25s and these high schoolers who are running faster. But I wasn't. That was probably my second 5K. I've probably done two or three in college, but that was one of them. I can't remember if that was indoor or outdoor. But and it wasn't my senior year because I only did 1500-meter races my senior year. So it probably would have been sophomore or junior year. But yeah, it's funny because it goes to show how much I really know about my times. I don't really pay attention.
Well, that's nice though. But my point was that that's pretty fast, however you look at it. Like it just is. I know
Thank
you're
you.
comparing against the best, and I'm just really average, but that's really fast.
No, I
And then
appreciate it.
you can also dominate at, ultra events and mountain events, and that's super varied. To be able to do that, to have the capacity to do that,
Mhm.
is quite impressive. So I guess it's an interesting kind of journey you've been on. You've gone shorter, really fast paced, and then it sounds like you branched out. You did some trail ultras. You kind of
Mhm.
you kind of you ticked off some really big ones in that, and then we're like, okay, cool, I'm kind of done with that. I want to go back to like really high elevation
Yeah,
stuff.
right.
um is that just because it's you just enjoy it more?
Yeah, I think it all this sport is so diverse. You can kind of like look at swimming and pick that apart. Like you got freestyle, you got breaststroke, you got backstroke, you got all these different forms of swimming. And then you compare it to running. Well, running's just forward motion. You just run, right? It's just a road. It's just flat. Well, I think there's so much more to it that can diversify different athletes in the sport of running. And you just throw a mountain in there, you got one totally different event on it. And for a runner, you have all these options and you have to kind of figure out what you enjoy the most for one, and then also what you excel in the best. Like what do you move the fastest through compared to your competitors? So there was a learning curve. There was some time for me to kind of like, well, what am I the best at for myself? Uh, and then it just gravitated towards, okay, uphill running. And then it gravitated towards, I really like technical stuff. And then being a rock climber for a while in college, it's like anything that involves hands, like I'm all about it. So,
Yeah.
that's totally different than a road marathon. I have never raced a road marathon in my life though, which is kind of funny.
Well,
So it's always been mountain. Uh, for me, I already kind of knew I didn't enjoy road running, so I just kind of skipped that part. But
yeah.
even in the trail world, you can still pick different events out as far as the distances and the terrain and the courses. So, mountain athlete is pretty much a broad term. But yeah, that for me, it's ultra, it's sub ultra, it's kind of all over the place. But yeah, I think even just as far as just your own training, as far as running, you can kind of perfect yourself as to what you want to race and compete in which distances. But yeah, it really comes down to what you enjoy the most. So I'm always bouncing around. I don't like to get too bored in one distance, so try to mix it up year to year.
It sounds like you don't like to get too bored in one place either. There's a lot of
Yeah.
there's a lot of living out the back of your car going on. Would you would you explain
Yeah.
that part?
Yeah. Wow, I have a hard time just like running the same trails over and over again. That's something nice about community. I definitely respect and appreciate being stable in one spot. And I feel like my community right now is in Colorado, and more specifically where my PO box is, it's Salida, Colorado. So my running store there where I worked at for a little bit, that's home. And then my East Coast home when I go visit family is in Black Mountain and Asheville, North Carolina, which is a really
Okay.
cool outdoor hub. Uh, but other than that, just kind of like moving around. Um, there's so many areas to be able to park your car at different trailheads. You can be sneaky and, sleep in different forests, national forests and things like this. Nothing illegal. It's all free. And, I live in a small car, which is even makes it funnier because it's a two-wheel drive Honda Fit, which is a really small car. So I appreciate gas mileage, and not gas guzzling. So, it allows me to drive that 22 hours from Colorado to Alberta, Canada, and then next going to San Francisco and Lake Tahoe for Western states just to be out there in that atmosphere. So, I don't know. To me, it's just living. It's every day is unique. Every day is memorable. You wake up somewhere new. I don't know. It's as far as I'm concerned, I'm gonna push it as long as I can in this romantic style of kind of finding new places and being able to
Mm,
run on them.
yeah. I don't know if this is coming from a yeah, it is coming from like a female perspective, I guess. But have you always felt just safe, like sleeping at these
Mm.
trailers just in your car? Have there been any dodgy experiences?
Um, Dodgy, no, I've been pretty lucky. Uh, just, you know, getting a tap on your window and just, hey, you gotta move.
Yeah,
So nothing too crazy. I get it more on the trail, like those types of experiences, that are
yeah,
unfortunate, like people on drugs and stuff, and they're just screaming and yelling and just a really weird scenarios like that.
yeah.
And then dogs chasing you and blah blah blah. But nothing, I've been pretty lucky, which I'm really grateful for. I can imagine hearing other stories of people boondocking in their vans in other countries and people breaking in while they're sleeping. That's never happened to me. Yeah, I've been lucky in that sense, and no crazy critters trying to tear open my windows just yet to get my cooler.
Yeah, I can relate to the crazy screaming people part. Living in Glasgow, you get a fair amount
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah, and then you just like, okay, well, I won't come here again.
Yeah, yeah,
Imagine.
puts you off the area really. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I guess you said you're at a race. Well, you have a race coming up very soon. You're in the area for it already.
Yeah.
Which one is that?
So this is the Minotaur. Meet the Minotaur. I was told it's pronounced that way, not Minotaur.
So I'm gonna question it.
Yeah. But it's a Skyrunning World Series race, so trying to get points for it. You need to do three Skyrunning races. So this is my second one. My first one was in Mexico, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, in Orizaba. But this one, yeah, it's a true sky race, which I am super thrilled about. Uh, as in, it has a lot of scrambles, it has ridge lines, and it has scree fields, and you have to descend down, a scree field, loose gravel. Just all the
Yeah.
things that you can't really find in the States as a race because of permitting issues is kind of a nightmare. But I think they swung it pretty well in Alberta or in Canada. They're a little bit more loose. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I'm so excited. This is kind of to me like an FKT route in the US you would find, because the permitting things again. But
Yeah.
here they're able to throw in competitors all at once, and it's going to be a wild ride. But yeah, meet the Minotaur. It's about a 20-mile, 35K race, 32K race or something like that. Um, so yeah,
Nice.
that's Saturday.
Yeah. And how well, I guess you're feeling pretty good about that one coming up from the sounds of it. The training's been
Yeah.
good and everything.
Yeah, body's feeling really good. It's recovering well from Mexico not too long ago. I think it's definitely in better shape than going into Mexico.
Okay.
Mexico, I was there during a heat wave, and the heat was
Cool.
just brutal, like 108 degrees Fahrenheit over there, um, which is pretty warm. And then here we had a cold front come in, and it's been snowing up high and very
Okay.
chilly, which is kind of the opposite of what you want, uh,
Oh.
being far. But today we get sun, which is great. So hoping
Yeah.
it melts up, because when I got to
Nice.
preview the course, I was running through snow up high. But yeah, it'll be nice if there's a little bit more rock than snow during the race.
Yeah. Understandable. Could you explain I was trying to look this up earlier. What is skyrunning? Because there are certain kind of like qualifications for it, right? It has to be like a certain vert for a certain distance, certain incline. Like, is that kind
Yeah.
of complicated? Um,
So I think the term has been adapting so much to different definitions. And for me, when I describe it to people, I like to keep it pretty blunt, so I might not be the best person to ask, but it's races that are typically at high altitude. They don't necessarily always have to be, but there's a significant amount of climbing and vert. And I apologize, I'm doing it in feet, but it's like a 7,000 to 12,000 feet of elevation
Okay.
gain.
Yeah.
Typically, 50K is on the long range of sky running, but and you can even have ultra sky races. But in the series, they kind of float around that 30K mark on that 20-mile distance. And they have it's hard to like make a grade of technicality because some races are definitely less technical than others. But they're typically hard footing, challenging to maneuver through. All the courses are well marked. Um, Trying to think of what else, but with a certain amount of descent as well. So it doesn't have to be equal to the uphill, but still good amount of descent. That's, technical and Verdi. And
Yeah.
just that's kind of most of it. As far as I'm understanding, it is a hard one to find the definition for. I think most races are so variable, and just to get the certification to be host a sky race event, um,
Yeah.
I yeah, it's not. It might be a little bit more loose uh, to get that
Yeah. It sounds similar to fell running that we have
right.
here, but I don't know if they're the same thing. It's not my thing, so I can't
Yeah,
say.
I haven't been in the fells. Like the Bob Graham round, notably, is like the most badass FKT there is. Uh, but yeah, I'm sure that's a style of skyrunning. Um,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
it just may not have so many of the ridges
Yeah.
in the fell district, but uh, yeah, I think that would count. Hard footing and a lot of climbing. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it is low
So
to sea level, but that's fine.
oh, okay, I see what you mean as well. That plays a part actually in it as well. Because yeah, altitude then plays
Yep.
a yeah, okay.
I Yeah, like it's pretty low elevation here, so it altitude elevation doesn't like where you start. I don't think has to play a huge role in what classifies it as a sky race or not. It just so happens a lot of these epic mountains that we get to race on just are high up. Like I get a race in Peru in a couple weeks as the third one. And that one,
Mm.
yeah, we're starting up high. We're starting at like 10,000 feet, and we're climbing uh pretty high up there in the 16 or 15,000 feet. Yeah.
Wow. So
So
is your
looking forward to
training,
that.
have you been able to train specifically for those conditions? Or how do you go about that?
The Yeah, so in Colorado, towards Leadville, there that sits already at 10,000 feet. So
Wow.
um not even so much Leadville. I got to spend some time there already since Mexico, but this entire winter I was living in Breckenridge, Colorado, and sleeping at 95. I skied all day for work, and being on the chairlift, being in the huts on the mountain. I'm already in like 11,500, 12,000 feet. So I I feel comfortable at high elevation. So as far as my own training, I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Um, so I think in a sense it's definitely bliss for for this. So it's kind of like altitude doesn't exist for me. I'll do it no matter what. I don't know, except for then when I'm gone
Famous
from being
last
at the
words.
ocean and I go up
Yeah.
high. I definitely get a headache, but it just takes like a couple days to get rid of. But yeah, that's how I typically train is just I get lucky being at 7,000 plus feet you pretty much all winter.
Yeah, so you just mentioned your other job there. You touched on it. So could you take me through the other half of your career, which is like college and then the other jobs besides being a sponsored athlete? Like what have you been up to?
Yeah, I like to help out with people getting into running. So pretty much for me fits in as being working at running stores. So getting people stoked on running and getting them in the right shoes. And then even kind of just helping out with their running form here and there, depending on the folks. So I done that for most of my time post college in different running stores as I travel. So
Okay.
I've gotten to do it in Aspen and gotten to do it in Asheville and in Colorado. Um, those are the ones standing out to me right now. What moved me out to Colorado was working on the mountain, so ski resorts. So that's what I was doing this winter. So not necessarily ski patrol, even though I had my woofer and EMT certs. It's pretty fun to be able to ski around the mountain without those types of responsibilities. So you can kind of envision me as the fun police for Vail Resorts. That's right. I was a yellow jacket, and I was proud of it. So I skied around and told people, mostly I helped out people who didn't know how to ski, which again was kind of giving them a lifelong sport, skill of teaching them how to go down the mountain safely, just,
Yeah.
so they don't fall and crash into a tree.
Yeah.
But most people see me as the person saying, "Slow down, you're going too fast. What are you doing?" We're all different. We all have our own style, but I was the cool mountain safety.
It sounds
Uh,
like it. Yeah.
so I was like the police and the ski patrol was the ambulance. So I had a lot
Nice.
of fun just skiing around and leaving the hut whenever I felt like it. And I was in charge of a mountain. They called me a lead. So I had different folks under me, which, I was really cool in yellow.
No
But
comment on that. It sounds pretty good. They didn't call you a lead, you were a lead. You were hired as a lead, which
yeah,
is pretty good.
they
Coming
gave me
from
responsibilities.
I don't ski, so
Oh, no way.
I
Yeah.
have a lot of friends who do, so I know everything that you're talking about, but I don't.
Oh, cool.
It's not for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, it's a it sounds like a really cool job. It would be something I aspired to, but I don't think I have the balls to do it. I'm
Right.
okay. I can relate to the yelling at people though. I used to be a beach lifeguard, and we would have like
Yeah.
15,000 people on a beach
Oh,
some
man.
days, and you get I'm not going to diss the people actually, but like people who haven't been to the ocean would come from
Right.
London and have no idea like what they were doing. So
Yeah.
you'd get
Get
all
caught in a
sorts
rip
and
current.
yelling at the big big
Uh-huh.
microphone. Like, I hated it. I don't naturally. Actually, if my mum
Yeah.
listens to this, she's going to disagree. I was about to say I don't actually tell people what to do. That is absolutely false. I don't tell strangers what to do.
Yeah.
Actually.
But you got to follow these rules. There's all these rules. Yeah.
Well, they're there for a reason, though. Yeah. So you just kind of you're able just to like bounce in and out of jobs like
Hmm.
that, or have you planned that ahead? Because that must be. Do you have to search every time, or do people take you back, or like, how does that work?
Yeah. So I guess I just do a lot of seasonal jobs. So they don't go year round. And, I worked in a lot of winter stuff. So try to work hard in the winter, save up just enough, and then live out of my car for the summer. It's kind of funny. Like I have like a dollar symbol. If I can make this much by winter, I'm gonna be set. I'm gonna be totally good all summer long. And it's really a modest amount. Um,
Yeah.
so if I exceed over that, I can go like, oh, splurge and have a lot of fun in the summer. Um, yeah, I won't tell you what that magic number is for me. But yeah, like being a boot fitter as well and like a rental tech and then also working trails, building trails, and that's kind of where my heart is. I really like building sustainable trails. I was also a naturalist. I kept my clothes on, telling people about the nature of different places. Um, but and different, flora, fauna. I did that in Breckenridge for 2 summers. But
Okay.
I've had really awesome bosses. This is what brings me back to answering your question, that they just want me to come back. So they
Yeah.
saved me a spot. So
Nice.
it is just a seasonal job, and I'm welcome to come back if I want. Uh, so that's typically how I float, and we'll see if I want to go back or if I want to stay in Salida and work at the running store. But, you know, um, the dream is to be a coach and help people with further their career in running, and just kind of work remotely and be able to kind of travel and chase the sun all year round.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds
Mhm.
the dream. Yeah. So, with the coaching, you're doing that at the moment as well, are you?
Yeah, so you saw my website. That's just a startup. Just kind of getting prepped.
Okay.
I have friends that reach out and I can help them out, or just close people that I just do it for free for now, just getting the experience. But currently just working on my certification to be able to be a coach and have that credibility behind me, backing me up, as opposed to just going off my own experience, my own knowledge of just past running, like how to coach.
Yeah.
I don't think that's something that I should rely on, and I don't think other coaches should just rely on that. I think it's definitely valuable, and you'd be doing a disservice if you're holding back from yourself of not obtaining a certification and giving them
Yeah.
that type of backup
Yeah.
information that we would learn from that. But yeah, so just trying to get that before I actually start charging clients and things. So,
Yeah.
I'm content where I'm at the moment, and slowly we'll get that certification finally finished up. But
Yeah. Yeah. And what does I guess your coaching ethos is kind of based off of what you've done as an athlete too, but what does it look like? I mean, your training must have changed a lot through the years given the variation of the races that
oh
you've
yeah.
done. Is it high volume that you're focusing? Like, what does your training kind of look like?
Oh, personally, yeah. Uh, you know, it all kind of works in reverse. So you kind of look at the end goal. What is your A race? What are you really striving to accomplish this season? And then doing the training steps for that race. So you kind of work in reverse. So the reason why I bring that up is because you mentioned volume and intensities and things. It all very much depends on what my end race is going to be.
Yeah.
So each season kind of varies. So it's like I'm not training for 100 milers, so I don't need to do 7 hour long runs or put in 100 plus extra mile weeks in,
Yeah.
and trying to find that specificity to those certain races. So for me, Trophy Okima, 52K, and there's even like VK goals this year. So just working on VO2 max. So a lot of intervals under 3 minutes. Um, and mostly all my routes and runs are going to be up a hill. So some steep climbs, trying to get that dialed in. But as far as doing something of that intensity 2 times a week, roughly, with a
Okay.
long run thrown in there, it brings my hours to about 14 hours a week, 14 to 16 total. And then like I don't know, it's really not too much compared to other athletes. I feel like I really enjoy running, and if it was that simple, just to go run up mountains all day long, that would be incredible. But unfortunately, you kind of have to put a leash on yourself and do what's the smartest if you want to get on the podiums at these races. So you have to hold back a little bit, be uh, more chosen and logistic with what you do during the week. So it's like just under 70 miles. My Strava, I don't really hide anything on it. But like 80 miles, 70-mile weeks. And yeah, you know, 17,000, 13,000 feet of gain during that week. But it's kind of like a gentle amount, but with how much racing I'm doing, you need to do some recovery, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're like doing a mild taper to go into this race. So it's really hard to get your mileage up. So I don't have much to brag about as far as my training goes. But
Well, it is to some
uh,
of us, the mere mortals, that is something to brag about. The kind of smart logistical sounding side of things sounds like a lesson learned over time, which I can relate to. Is that from injuries,
uh,
etc.?
oh yeah, totally. You learn your body and you walk a thin line. When I'm coaching myself, I definitely get caught. Being on that threshold of if I do two extra intervals, I'm gonna get injured. Or I do like 3 weeks of climbing up a ladder as far as mileage goes, and then the last long run, for example, right before I have a down week of recovery, I would get
Mm.
this mild injury, and it was just enough to recover through for
Right.
like
Yeah.
it's like wow, I'm like walking this thin tightrope. Um, so currently, and go back and forth with a coach, um, current right now, which is helpful, just to kind of keep me in check and things, and gives me a lot of great insight of what to be doing and the intensity and stuff. So I'm
Yeah.
working with him, and I think it's good to have somebody to hold you accountable, and also give you some good ideas and good routes and workouts to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And on the recovery side of things, if you're living in your car, what are you eating?
Yeah.
Like if you got a little cooker, like just the logistics of this, I want, cool. You got a little camping setup.
Yeah. So,
Nice.
uh, yeah, this is super fun. I learned this from my buddy, Weston Hill out in New Zealand. He would always make some muesli. So it's super fun just to add nuts and oats and chia seeds and all sorts of stuff, a lot of good carbs. So I always add to this and make it pretty new and different all the time. Put maple syrup on for some extra sugary carbs. But this, I got muesli ready and waiting for me. So just starting your morning with some calories right away and trying to
Yeah,
imitate what I probably do for a race if going into like a hard workout, just so it's
yeah,
not always new as far as race calendar goes. Um, and then a lot of going to a grocery store during the day and just trying to eat whatever sounds good. But yeah,
nice.
that's the morning part. And then I
Yeah,
have some coffee, right?
nice. And have you got a, yeah, no, I saw it. You have a little like stove thingy there.
Yeah. Oh, I got a lot of options for stoves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Depends if
Okay.
I'm what I'm cooking. Oh.
Yeah, nice. And I heard on another podcast that you did, you used to be vegetarian. Is that out the
Oh,
window now or gone back to it? Or
no, it's out the window. Yeah, you try all these different fads and trying
yeah,
to experiment with different diets. And for me, I'm finding, just eat clean. Um,
yeah,
for me, it's doing this, but eat whatever sounds good, eat whatever the body's craving, get the
yeah,
calorie and the carbs in, and all the fats and proteins that you need to be able to fuel up your muscles to be able to do the next workout. That's like probably the best diet for me.
yeah. No, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, did you feel back when you were vegetarian, which may be a while ago? I'm sorry, I don't want to get
Mhm.
stuck on it. I know it's like a fad thing,
No,
but
no,
were you kind of, I'm just interested because it's from my own experience too. Did
yeah,
you feel you were lacking in anything? Like, were you struggling with that diet, trying to run how you were running? Did that make sense?
yeah.
Yeah.
This was during college, and for all I know, I got ran my fastest 1500 when I was a vegetarian or a vegan.
Yeah.
But I really feel like you can make gains. You do have to eat a lot more. And for me, I was doing great up to like 3 months of doing it.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
kind of at that threshold, I was like, I am so hungry. Like I feel like I'm not getting enough out of this anymore.
Yeah.
So I just kind of felt tired more. Um, and yeah, I realized it was probably time to eat a steak. So, uh, at that time, and then once you have like something of that sort of animal protein after that long duration, you do have this weird kick. For me, it felt like night and day of energy and recovery. I was like,
Yeah.
holy cow, that was awesome. And then you could go crush the workout or feel so much better. So then you're like, all right, maybe, do it in moderation. Don't have it all the
Yeah.
time. So would do that for a while. But yeah, for me, it was like that 3 month mark of all vegetarian to realize that's not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's highly individual. I don't mean to like shit on
totally.
vegetarians, vegans, because it really, I think it works for some people. Like obviously people have proven that it does, so I don't mean to diss that, but
Right.
it does seem, yeah, it didn't work for
Mhm.
you. And it won't for a lot of other people, which is fine, I
Yeah,
think. Um, yeah. And could I go, sorry, I'm going way back. Um, but could you tell me a bit about growing up? Were your family really sporty and that's where you got it from? Or
totally. Uh, Growing up, I was homeschooled and I had uh two older brothers and an older sister, and my dad was always running. I had this was when I was like, under the age of 12.
okay.
So being like 9-year-old Morgan, I would always see my dad come home from work and he would go for a run. And I always kind of stuck with me. I would hop on my bike and bike behind him or try to keep up, and go with him. So this routine, this ritual I saw my dad doing every day, I think kind of just stuck with me. Um, he later ended up having cancer and passing away when I was 12. So that was pretty hard to cope as being so young and then going from being in homeschool, being the youngest of four, we went to public school after that. Uh, so world kind of shifted, but from that experience, my dad was also a coach, a triathlete coach. He coached my sister and I into youth triathlons. So he was kind of planting the seed of discipline and small gains, working every day, you'll get better.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like that's never really left me as I
Yeah.
grew up, and it was just kind of a good escape, good coping for me, as opposed to all the other options there were out there of coping after a loved one passed away. So I
Yeah.
was just kind of addicted to riding my bike as a 12-year-old, 30 miles down
Yeah.
the road and riding on busy highways and stuff where my mom wouldn't know I was. And then coming home and then, feeling that sense of accomplishment for myself and, you know, Lance Armstrong kind of being your guy that you would listen to as well.
Yeah.
As far as all the all the workouts he was doing at such a young age is like I can do this too. Um so yeah, I did like youth triathlons growing up, like not really that many, but um, that is, at a really young age, and then seventh and eighth grade running cross country and being successful in that, and it just once you feel like you're accomplishing something and you're good at it, it gives you self-confidence,
Yeah.
and like purpose and like belonging, and it just kind of rippled effect to this long-term thing and setting goals of like getting school records and then the high that you get after you achieve a goal kind of makes you step and choose a bigger one for the next one. Um,
Yeah.
which I'm really grateful in a lot of ways that my environment growing up kind of forced me into that corner. Um,
Mhm.
to be able to find these types of people in my life to support me and never say, hey, you got to go to school, you got to focus more on this or that. They totally like, well, he really loves doing this. Let's just let him do that.
Yeah.
Like he really
Yeah.
loves running and being outside and biking. So I had a great support crew. Um, and yeah, I just kept climbing the ladder of my own goals I would set for myself. And yeah, being 32, the ride continues.
Yeah. Yeah. And how, I mean, I won't claim to know much about it, but how was it going from being homeschooled thrown into a
Mhm.
public school after quite a traumatic experience?
Yeah. Uh, I mean, I had two really close friends on the road I grew up in. We called the sticks. We were pushed out away from the city and what have you. So we did a lot of football and stuff. So they were my friends and I would ride the bus with them. So at least I had two
Okay.
buddies that I would go to school
Yeah.
with. We weren't
Yeah.
in the same classes or anything, but the bus it was nice. But to go to school after that, I definitely felt a fish out of water. Uh, remember going to like get fancy clothes at Old Navy and get all your school supplies and stuff, and you show up, and it's like so hot outside, but I'm wearing like an Old Navy sweater and blue jeans and white shoes, and I don't remember many other days in school, but I remember my first day pretty well. And the reason why
Yeah.
I'm saying this one is because uh it was the day I showed up was the day they're gonna do the middle school mile. And
Oh, wow.
right off the bat, and I didn't have any gym clothes, and it was an outside mile and it was like 70 degrees outside. It was really warm. I jumped into the school year not the first day that everybody else would. I forget what month it was, but it was
Right.
kind of like
Yeah.
in mid school.
Yeah.
Um, so line up to the starting line. I knew the kid that I would race against, that was in my homeroom or what have you. And he was also the same kid I would race at the triathlons. So I knew he was fast.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
But I don't remember many other times I've run in my career, but I remember running a 7 minute, 10 second fifth grade
That's
mile in my jeans and basketball shoes. Uh, and my feet were on fire, and we were coming down the home stretch. And yeah, I one of my classmates he stuck his arm out, and I got clotheslined, so I didn't end up winning the race. It was really weird. I fell down and got back up and sprinted in, but I didn't win. But it was really cool that I have this memory of racing in my
outraged.
first
Oh,
day
I
of
would have
clothes.
seen red. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really
Throw a
cool.
flag.
Really. Yeah. I feel like it set the tone almost. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think making friends was relatively easy for me in middle school, and I've yeah, it was just a little different going back home and having hospital visits and going back
Yeah.
to that life. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
welcoming at least at school, public school. Homeschool was
Yeah.
fun. I was done with classes before the kids got off to go to school. I would wake up so early and do all my schoolwork and then yeah.
Was it your mum doing all of that with you?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. She was
That's
great.
yeah, that's impressive in itself. Especially what you said there were four of you.
Yeah. And then I could just kind of segue. Yeah, I'm a nephew or not a nephew, excuse me. I have so many nieces and nephews. I have 11 nieces and nephews. So I'm Uncle Mo to all those guys.
Wow.
So yep. And most of them live in North Carolina, all pretty close to each other. And then my other
Right.
brother still lives in Pennsylvania, and he has four little ones.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's a private question because my autism barrier doesn't function, but do you plan on having like kids? I guess you're what, 32?
Yeah, I just haven't met somebody who would want to start that kind of chapter. but
would want to
I wouldn't be
partake.
opposed of it. Yeah.
Well, I guess
Yeah.
it's pretty hard. I was actually going to ask that question, not about romantic relationships, but you said you found it easy to make friends at school and stuff. But you have a very nomadic lifestyle as of right now, it would seem. So how do you keep your relationships going when you're kind of all over the show? Does it not get a bit lonely sometimes?
Yeah. Man, life in the past 10 years have been since college. It's been every year is always kind of varies and it's different. But for the most part, yeah, nomadic seems to be kind of the same style for most of it. But being able to hold relationships, it's typically pretty easy, I guess. I mean, it's not forever and it's only seasonal for me, like only like 4 months.
Mm.
But in the past, like I would bring girlfriends with me to Europe to race the World Series, and we do
Yeah,
workaways and things to be able to uh, have something to do while we're in Europe, which was super fun. A lot of memories of doing things like that. Um, and yeah, in the wintertime, I'm a little bit more stable. Um, so that's kind of nice to be able to have a relationship and be with somebody then. But yeah, um, I don't know. It's kind of recently just being independent and doing this style. So there's like a lot of texting and calling family and friends, and that's kind of
yeah,
keeps that feeling of being with other people alive, which is nice. But
yeah. And I
and
guess
then
you can visit
also,
home as well. Sorry,
yeah,
go
and then oh yeah, I mean races, like just going to races, that's also family, and
on.
friends. And it's so consistent, like you're seeing pretty much the same folks all the time at these
Okay.
races. So like Western States is huge, being able to go there and just seeing like loads of new loads of friends that you've made throughout the time. So what makes it fun, I think for me, is that I've done 100 and sub ultra and this whole spectrum that I have friends in the ultra distance world and I have
Yeah.
friends in the sub ultra distance world. And believe it or not, like there is a gap. Like people in the sub ultra are like, who is this person? Like, I don't know Jim Walmsley. Like, what are you talking about? And then it would be like the same thing, looking at it, talking to people who do 100 miles, they're like, I don't know who Joe Gray is. Um,
Oh, actually, I don't.
so so like Joe Gray is incredible short distance athlete that has been on the world's team so many times. But yeah, there's this gap. They just don't know each other, and I
Yeah,
really appreciate being able to float and go back and forth.
totally.
And it's the same thing
Yeah.
in high school, and I would hang out with the band geeks and then hang out with the jocks. Like I never had like a family, so I was just everywhere.
I
Yeah.
really relate to that. Yeah. It always felt like, I don't know, like an no. I have a very good bunch of friends from school, like really, really good friends. But I could always like kind of float between. But my mom was like, well, actually, it just means you can fit in anywhere, right? Like it doesn't really, you don't
Yeah,
have to
it's
be
pretty
just
cool.
like one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
that's
feel like
cool.
I pried so much that I'm very nosy. I don't mean to.
Oh no, not at all. And I said
Yeah.
band geeks.
Yeah. Well, your
But
high schools are like, I feel like they're just completely different to what we go through. I'm sure with some similar elements, but they look terrifying, to be honest. Like, I wouldn't want that.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I went to somewhere where we didn't have to like wear school uniforms. Did you have to wear school uniforms? And
oh, you should see our school uniform.
yeah.
We had to wear the grey nun skirts. I'm not kidding. They went down to like my
Oh yeah,
ankle.
yeah.
They had a
With the
little
white
slit at
stuff.
the back that used to get like caught as you went up the stairs.
Oh no.
It was
Yeah,
bad. Yeah, it was very bad. It's cool that you
that's silly.
it's cool that you didn't actually, because I always thought, oh, I would find that like way more pressure if I had to decide what I wore. Like at least we all look as ugly as each other right now, you know? Like
Right. That's
I
funny.
didn't like the pressure.
Yeah,
But it did,
there was pressure.
yeah. Well, yeah, I feel like it's even more so for girls too. But I do remember you said about going to Old Navy when you first there. And when I first went to I didn't have as extreme experience as you, but I had a really similar experience where I went to this like really fancy school for the first time, and I didn't know what anyone was like saying or doing pretty much the whole time. I had a very embarrassing experience where the one of the head teachers, she wouldn't let me leave the lunch table until she taught me how to use a knife and fork properly.
Oh my gosh. No trust in your parents at all.
Horrific. It's as if I'm gonna make friends as a 9-year old now. Like, like,
Wow.
but also I don't think you guys have the brand, but like in the changing rooms getting ready for PE and stuff, all the girls had like Jack Wills written on them. And so I went home and I was like, Mum, like, who's Jack Wills? Like, what? Who is that?
Yeah.
It was just
Like,
she didn't know either, but it was a big clothing brand that
yeah,
they all used
that's
to
silly.
wear.
Why are you wearing Haines's underwear right now? Like, that's not your name.
I was just so as I'm, 9 or 10 years old, I was like, what the heck is going on? I
Totally. That's
definitely
funny.
fish out of water as well. Well,
Yeah.
I should probably let you go and actually do your training, which is how you're making a living. But I did have one more question to ask, and that would be, what is your most embarrassing moment that you've ever had?
Oh, ooh, gosh. Oh man. Yeah, I wish I knew this one. Oh, let me think,
Yeah, I
think.
did offer to
Oh,
tell you.
this one was pretty good. It was in Mexico. Um,
Just
let me,
recently.
yeah, it's just recently, but there wasn't really anybody else around. The lady that I stayed at a hostel or a hotel kind of thing, and she was so sweet. She was like this older lady, and she was the one that cleaned all the rooms, and she was always at the reception every time I came. So she was just a really sweet old lady,
Yeah, I
and
don't
I
know where
would
this
bring
is
her.
going.
No, nothing weird. But I would bring her like a cold beverage, like a drink, from the supermarket because it's just like a heat wave came through. It's like 106 out, no AC. Uh,
Yeah.
and it was time for me to move to a different hotel across the street, but there was a language barrier. It was really bad. Um, like we couldn't. I would always have to use Google Translate because I don't know pretty much any Spanish. But I was basically telling her goodbye, and it was so nice that you would let me stay and this and that. So I was saying goodbye, giving her like another cold drink or whatever. Um, so it was awkward because it was like, do I give you a hug? And then she like
Yeah.
sticks out her hand, and then I'm not used to kissing people's hands. It was really strange, but it was just this whole weird like shakedown of what to do to say goodbye because she was so sweet and she's definitely like 75 years old, but 75-year-old Mexico lady. I don't know. I could think of more because there's been a lot of awkward things that have been happening to me. But that's the one that came to my head because
Yeah.
I left that scenario like, wow, that was really, really awkward goodbye. Just kissing this old lady. But, yeah. But anyways, that's what I got for now.
Nice. Yeah, the most recent one. I thought, I don't know if it's the same in Mexico as it would be in Spain, but don't you usually do like the double kiss thing?
I think that's a little bit more Frenchy, but they didn't do
Oh,
it in Mexico. But I guess maybe they do it in Spain.
they
Yeah,
do.
I haven't.
Trust me,
Yeah.
they do. I don't
Catches
like
you off
it.
guard. Just kissing on the side of the ear. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's not too bad. That could have been way
You have an
worse.
embarrassing
I've done
story?
so much. Who are we interviewing here? I don't feel.
No, let's save my terrible one with one that you got.
Ah, there's so many. I'm sure my flatmate would remember so many more than I do because at least they just go for me. I don't seem to remember that much, and then someone will bring it up, and I internally cringe, but I'm like, oh well, I'd forgotten about it, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But there was one that I'll just never forget. Uh, it was like, oh, I was helping at a race. It was a half marathon, and anyway, that's not really relevant. But I was like sat chatting to this really good runner afterwards because he went to the same uni as I did. And he was gorgeous. Like he was like I had such a big crush on him. And like I had done for like a little bit. So like afterwards, thank God this wasn't to his face. It was over the phone like later on. But I kind of went for it and I asked him out. I just realized all my friends are gonna hit this. This is awful. Um, anyway, it turned out he was gay, like 100% gay. And I hadn't clocked that at all. You know, how was I supposed to know? I thought he was really cool and interesting. And then it got worse. I didn't just ask out someone who's gay. I said, "Are you sure?" I
You want to rethink this? Yeah, that's
It was
awesome.
out of pure awkwardness, like, oh my God, what have I done? And like, what do I do now? And I just came out. I was like, are you sure? And realized that was the worst possible thing that I could have ever said to someone. Like,
Oh,
it
that's
was so,
funny.
that was years ago and I haven't gotten over it still. So
Asking out the gorgeous gay guy. That's good.
yeah, I won't be doing any more asking out. That's done.
I mean, I think if anything, that just boosted his confidence. That was good.
I mean, I hope so, but why did I say you sure?
Yeah. Like think about it, because I'm the whole packet. Like, come on.
I mean, look at me. What are you sure about this? Like that is
Yeah.
not what I meant
I
at
never
all.
got turned down before. Like,
It's I really trust me, I have, but it's just so not what I meant by it
that's
at all. I don't know what I
that's
meant by
really
it.
funny.
I just panicked and I said it. But but
Ah,
it was
you sure you want to please double take? That's funny. Very
yeah,
good.
well, I feel like that's worse than an awkward handshake. So I hope I made you feel better there.
Well,
Yeah.
it was a kiss on the hand, okay? It's like she was the Queen of England.
I'm sure she felt like royalty, so it's fine.
Yeah,
We
like I
made
guess this
people
is how we
feel
do it.
good, so
That's great.
oh God, I'm actually sweating just thinking about it again. Um, well, that was all the questions that I had for you.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, thank you so much for taking the
Yeah,
time.
thanks for
The phone connection seemed to last, which is great, given you're outside as well. But
yeah,
thank you
thanks for
there.
having me, Helen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.